This week we catch up with Cowboy basketball assistant coach Jeremy Coxon. Let's start here. How did you and Coach Lutz get to know one another?
I was coaching at UT San Antonio, and it was probably this fall of '95. And he was just took a graduate assistant job with Danny Casper over at Incarnate Word, and that's out that fall recruiting with Tim Carter, and we saw Steve as a young assistant over there at Incarnate Word, and he saw he was working, he was diligent, he was focused, and he just caught my eye. I can see it to this day across the gym, and we've kind of stayed in touch ever since.
So what makes him unique? I mean, he kind of comes from a family of guys. Everybody kind of has that little pack that they run with in the coaching world, and everybody knows each other. What makes Coach Lutz unique that has helped him be successful?
Well, there's a couple of things, but I think the first is his tireless work ethic. He doesn't get tired. He works. He has unbelievable tenacity, and I think that's the biggest thing with him. And then I think his emotional intelligence is incredible. He doesn't get too high. He doesn't get too low. He stays focused and just keeps moving forward daily.
Yeah, you've worked with a lot of different head coaches in a variety of areas, names that people are familiar with. Of course, Doc Sadler is a very highly thought of coach who had connections to Coach Sutton from the days at Arkansas. Many others. So every head coach is a little different,
right?
In terms of how you approach it as an assistant coach. So how do you learn to navigate the different personalities of the head coaches and be the guy that they want you to be within your role with the staff?
Well, I think as an assistant coach, you learn early, or I don't know if you learn early, but you learn, if you make it as long as I have, you better be a listener, and they don't hire you necessarily for what you know. So you need to listen, you need to watch, and you need to implement. But the game is still the same, no matter what it is. It's still, no matter what system, no matter who you work for, fundamentals are the same: passing, catching, balance, leverage, playing hard, playing the right way. That's the same. So you just kind of watch and you see where you fit in and see what their system is. But then you implement the fundamentals and you try to teach it the best way possible. But that's the biggest thing. I think guys get confused when they think they're hiring you for your knowledge. They want to know that you're going to be able to teach what they want them to teach. They're going to be able to know. You're going to hold people accountable to what they're going to be accountable for, and you're going to be able to work and be able to implement and follow through with what they want. And I think guys getting confused with thinking people want to hear their voice.
Yeah. Oh, that makes a lot of sense in a lot of professions. It's interesting you say that, talking about work ethic. Your start in this was interesting in that, there's the term people chase it. Right. You literally chased it.
There's no question.
Walk us through that. It's like the Rick Barnes story in many ways, who was doing the same type thing when he was trying to get into it.
Well, I'd gotten married my senior year in college, and I always wanted to be a coach. My dad was a high school coach, Class A high school coach in northern Wyoming. So we're pretty secluded up there, and don't really know how to get into Division I basketball. I didn't see a Division I basketball game until I was a senior in high school. I saw Colorado State and Wyoming play in Fort Collins. But we were 6.5 hours of bad road. I mean, this is just normal weather. This is from September to April in Cody, Wyoming. So, and being a high school teacher, high school coach, we just make it to Laramie. That's for the weekend. So, as a Cowboy fan, Cowboy basketball was really, really big. Wyoming Cowboy basketball was really big in the 80s. It was probably the golden era of Wyoming basketball. And so I always wanted to be a coach. I always thought that was the greatest thing in the world. And then I played junior college basketball and had a great assistant coach who's been a mentor of mine for years, Scott Schumacher. And he kind of told me stories about the path that he was on, the path he was going to take. And then I started reading Feinstein's book, Like Season Inside, and talking about Rick Barnes and how he got on to George Mason. He went and sat in the coach's office and he didn't show up, and he came back the next day and just waited. And so then I got married my senior year in college at Mesa College in Grand Junction, and we got done playing, and everybody went home for spring break, and I was sitting in Grand Junction. Cindy was working and complaining and whining and moaning and telling her the Rick Barnes story, and she bought me a ticket to the NCAA tournament in Salt Lake. So I went to the Huntsman Center, and I got there and watched Arizona and Pepperdine and Creighton and Seton Hall, and I said, man, this is what I want to do. This is all I want to do. And I got home and I kept on telling her story. Well, she had to go back to Wyoming to graduate the next year, and I was going to stay as a grad assistant at Mason. She goes, well, just call Benny Dees at Wyoming and see if he has a spot. Just call him. And I would just, no, he'd never take one. So one day she just got dialed the office number in Wyoming, and she said, Coach Dees available? And they said yes, and she said, here, he answer.
Really?
And Coach got on the phone. He said, matter of fact, my GA just, this is June 7th. He says, my GA just left, and he said, I need a GA. He says, can you be here tomorrow to talk to me about it? On June 7th, I left Grand Junction, Colorado, and drove in a snowstorm from Steamboat Springs to Colorado to Laramie to get to see Benny and visit with him for 15 minutes on June 8th, the morning of June 8th, and he told me to be back on August 1st, and I've been in college basketball for the last 34 years.
Oh my gosh, that's an amazing story. And they were rolling in those days. I
mean,
they
were rolling. We were good. They were coming. We probably had as good a talent as Wyoming ever had. We had 3 NBA players that year. We had Reggie Slater, who played for, I think, 9 years in the league. Tim Bro played on both of the Rockets World Championship teams. And then lottery pick, and Theo Ratliff was a freshman. So we had really good talent. We didn't have we got hurt that year early and didn't have a great year, but we had a fantastic talent. But again, it was those are from the Charles Bradley years in the early '80s through that year. Finis Dembo was in the middle of that, so it was a great time to be at Wyoming, and it was really fun, and I got to play. We going back to BYU and Utah last week. That's where it all started. Was in the Huntsman Center at Utah for me, and to go back there and coach was kind of a cool experience. And there were some bitter rivalries, and then with Ainge sitting behind the bench, and I told him, I said, I remember watching Charles Bradley and you battle on this floor in 1981. It was great.
Oh man, I'll bet it was. Second obvious follow up to that, you have a great wife.
Oh, she was.
Oh my gosh, she was willing to do that. Well, that is so awesome.
She probably the reason why I've stayed in it as long as I have, because she loves it more than I do. She loves the kids. She loves the games. You watch her. She lives and dies on every possession just as much as I do. So, and she absolutely loves game day, and she loves the spirit of the game.
And interestingly, your son is in it. Your son Austin is at UTEP working on staff there.
He's the operations guy at UTEP, and he does a fantastic job. And he's just the same way. Since he was 5 years old, or even younger, he would be in practice every single day when I was a head junior college coach, and wherever I was. And when I made the transition back to Division I worked with Coach Gillespie, and he was kind enough to let Austin travel a lot and be around the programs at A&M and Kentucky, Texas Tech, and so yeah, Austin just it's in his blood too, and he's the same way. He lives and dies every possession, every moment, and just loves the kids, and that's the biggest thing is the kids.
It's interesting. I know you've done a lot of work with big guys, posts, and have a great reputation in that area. I'm curious. There's so much emphasis now on either making threes or getting points at the rim. Are we living in maybe a renaissance of big guys playing with their back to the basket because those shots come at the rim, like Abu Usman, for example? Are we trying to drift back into that category because so much has been about 5 guys out, big guys shooting threes? That's still part of it. But could we be going through a little bit of a renaissance of the true post player, or have we passed those days by?
I think the game, once again, the game is the same. I think if you're still rolling into the goal, you're still going to sit. And the game is played. You got to get 2 people on the basketball, one way or the other. And the ball screen is, or you can throw it to the post and play out of it. And I still think if you look at the final at the NCAA tournament last year, you look at when Kansas was in the NCAA tournament 2 years ago, when they won it, when they needed the basket, they went to McCormick. I mean, they still went to McCormick right in the lane. I can see it to this day. They need a basket. They still go to Dickinson, and they go there. Clemson played through the post the whole way to the Elite Eight last year. It's just the way it was. And if you look at Hurley's team at UConn, they're still playing through the post. It's still if you go to the post, you can get 2 people on you and play out of it and create the rotation the right way. If you go to the post, it is close to the rim as a rim shot, and if you go to the post, you're going to get fouled. So I still think that the old school guys, the guys that are really the fundamentals of the game, the meat and potatoes, when the game gets close, if you can throw it down there, and the biggest thing is to get one. That's what's the hardest is to get one, because the kids don't want to play down there.
Right.
And so the recruiting part of it is there. But when you get a kid like Usman who wants to play down there, you get a Hunter Dickerson who wants to play. But that's the key, is just there's just not as many of them as there used to be, and they're getting so much more skilled out on the perimeter and be able to play out there. But I still think there's a place for them. They're still coveted, and they're still highly sought after.
Yeah, while we're on the topic of size, this is kind of an odd question, but just our schedule has made me think about this. You think about Nevada, a lot of length. You think about Utah, a lot of length. You think about BYU, a lot of length. You think about Colorado, a lot of length. You seem to see that in the Mountain State teams, and maybe that seems to have gone on for a while. How much different, or is it different, style basketball-wise because of that? Because you look at those rosters. There's 6'10", 6'11". Utah's got a 6'9" guy playing point guard. The roster makeup is different.
There's no question, and I think that's the difference. We saw that a little bit when I was in Conference USA. We saw it a little bit when we transitioned with Stephen F. Austin into the WAC. The geographics of the game, the geographics of the way it's played in the different way. And when you start playing in nationals, I would think the Big Ten is really messed up the way they're playing all over the map.
Oh yeah.
But when you start playing on the West Coast, which is a little bit more skilled, they're really pack line, really playing in space, really playing more of a European brand. Then you come down here to the Mid-South where it's where we get out, where it's a little bit more physical, a little bit more aggressive defensively, probably not as skilled a game, and it's kind of a war of wills.
Yeah.
And so we'll see how that plays out. But I think it's good for the game, and it's going to be interesting to see. It also comes down to who recruits. You just got to recruit the bigger, stronger, faster, more aggressive athletes, or bigger, more skilled athletes, and play in the pack. And I watched BYU in the zone, and they're shifting in that zone and playing last night against Colorado and whatever. So you're exactly right, though. It's the length and the skill level is incredible on the West Coast.
Yeah, very interesting. That's assistant coach Jeremy Cox. Thanks for watching.